Are you tired of Necromancer builds that only have one or two pets? Have you ever wanted to see just how many minions you can have on screen? Have you ever wanted to reenact this scene? Are you looking for a build that will get you from the beginning of a league all the way into empowered monoliths in last Epoch? If so, then this might be the guide for you. I am Acolyte, and this is my video guide to the build that I've called the Zookeeper. So, first off, why am I making this guide? Well, what I wanted out of this build was something truly centered for beginners. I wanted a build that doesn't require any specific uniques or set items or legendaries, anything like that. Something that you can just start with very early and then take it all the way to empowered monoliths, possibly even beyond if you wanted. But what I'm focusing on is just a true beginner, a league starter build. This character that you're watching me play right now was started offline as a solo, self-found character. So I had no money, no outside gear to prop me up. I started as level 1, just as if this was my first character ever. And that is what I'm focused on. So you can take this if your first character, if it's your 20th character, if you're starting a new league, whatever, and you can take this as far as it will let you go. So for now, let's get to the skills. So, okay, I will go in the order of the skills as they took them and give some kind of general nodes to shoot for with each skill. I do want to note that this build is pretty easily customizable. You can, take a couple of nodes that I didn't take if you want more survivability or more damage for your minions. This is just a framework to get started with. Also wanted to note that I focused exclusively on physical and necrotic damage, so all my minions will center around one or both of those damage types. So let's start off with the summon skeletons. Alright, so summon skeletons you pick up at level 2, so you can get started real early with your minion playstyle. A couple keynotes to work towards are Marrow Walkers and Hollow Walkers, as they both give you an extra skeleton. I personally went for Hollow Walkers first because this Necrotic Conviction, which is before it, helps give you, when you have the Skeleton Warriors, gives them extra health for staying alive longer, and for the archers it gives them extra damage. So it's pretty good to pick up, and that's where I would suggest to start. From here, I went into Marrow Tap and picked up a couple points here for some Leech to help, again, with the sustain. And from there, I went on into Unholy Rage, moving towards Lone Guardian, specifically for the increased crit chance. And then I picked Mightier Than the Sword, which completely gets rid of the warriors and only picks up, so you only summon archers. Now, for Mightier Than the Sword, this was my personal preference. I picked it up because I was already here with Lone Guardian for the crit chance anyway, and I did kind of specifically decide that I wanted my minions to all be archers. You could just as easily pick up Shambling Steel to go for all warriors instead. It's just a matter of personal preference. So the next skill we're moving on to is Bone Golem. This one unlocks at level 9, which is pretty good timing since our second skill ability here opens up at level 8. Now, when I started this character, I rushed to max out Tower of Bones because of the bonus threat generation. Um, Especially in the early levels, your Acolyte, while focusing on minion damage, is a little squishy. So I found the extra threat generated helped me just survive longer while I was leveling. From here, I made my way over to the Hunger node, which gives your Bone Golems health on hit, but it also gives you health when your Bone Golems hit. Really great sustainability. Just a couple points there will give your Golems a lot more tankiness than you would expect. Then I picked up Blood Golem for the Sanguine Orb being a bit of AoE damage. Again, this is another personal preference. You can pick that one or not as you're so inclined. After Blood Golem, I filled out Amalgam of Rogues for the faster attack speed and move speed, and then I picked up the Twin Golems. Yes, it's a little less health and damage, but in the end, because you have two of them, it ends up being more. This is another personal preference. I picked it because, again, I wanted to see how many minions I could get on the screen at the same time. So the next skill I picked up had to wait until I got my Necromancer specialization. I picked up Summon Wraith. Um, Now, if you'll notice, this ability isn't currently on my skill list. Um, I found that the Wraiths were a lot stronger early on than the Volatile Zombies, so I focused on the Wraiths first, and then switched the Volatile Zombies around level 50 when my last skill specialization opened up. I'll go into that more here in a bit. The first skills I shot for with the Wraith was Reapers for bonus necrotic damage on per attack, and then Necrotic Hunger, giving them bonus necrotic damage, but also health leech on their necrotic damage. Um, the Wraith's mana cost baseline is 20, and that's kind of a lot early in the game, so anything you can do to kind of help your Wraith last longer will help offset that. From there, I moved down here into Grave Reality, again, to give them more health. And from there, I went to Delay the End to lower their health decay. Um, Grave Reality's mana cost increase is once again kind of partially offset by the fact that you don't have to summon as much with Delay the End. From here, you can go into Wraithbringer and Spirit Link for some mana efficiency and bonus crit chance. So, why did I spec out of the skill later? Well, I initially tried using the Volatile Zombies before trying the Wraiths, and I found that early on, the zombies were far less effective than I was hoping. The Wraiths, on the other hand, felt a lot more menacing earlier on, and then as I said, once I hit level 50, when my 5th skill tree opened up, I decided to try out the zombies again, with the ability to add some more points right in from the start and see how they feel, and I liked how they went a lot better the second time around. Your mileage may vary, so you may find yourself wanting to use the volatile zombies right off the bat, or you may want to stick with the Wraiths. There's no real wrong answer here. When I get to the volatile zombie tree, I'll go more into detail as to why I picked them over Wraiths. But before that, we have Skeletal Mages. So the Skeletal Mages provided quite a bit of range to UPS when you add them to your party. So for this, I immediately went to the right-hand side to give them Leech Life and Undead Mortars for a bit of area damage, and then Battle Hardened to reduce the cooldown of the Undead Mortars. From there, I went left into Splintered Dominion and Argonautic Speed, with my last few points going south into Keller Mortis, and then Order of Death to pick up the extra mage. This is probably the most straightforward of the skill trees, with the least amount of wiggle room in it. You can still make adjustments to suit your playstyle, maybe going for Grey Merchant for a little bit of added survivability and crit damage. Um, again, this is meant to be customizable, so feel free to play around with it to fit your liking. So for the last skill, we're going into Volatile Zombies, and as previously mentioned, when I reopened the Volatile Zombie tree at level 50 when this last option opened up. Um, from here, I immediately made my way, Forceful Commander, Army of Rot, to the Repulsive Vomit and Wretched Innards skills. You do have to put 1 point in this poison chance, but it's just kind of the cost of admission, and these two talents down here in the corner are kind of too good to pass up. After maxing out Wretched Innards, I went back upwards, and then moving to the right for Ravenous to pick up an extremely important talent, Pull of the Grave. Now this talent tree is the biggest reason I picked the Volatile Zombies over the Wraiths. And this talent says that any enemy that is hit while at 16% of their health or lower is immediately killed. Now, this includes bosses. Let me say that again. Your volatile zombies will instantly kill any enemy they hit at or below 16% health, including bosses. It's completely bananas. After putting the two in Pull of the Grave, I went to Horrific Vessels, which makes the volatile zombies and their vomit base damage is physical and necrotic as opposed to fire. And then from here, I went to Grave Attunement for some bonus damage and a lower health decay in exchange for a reduced move speed. The reduced move speed I don't feel so bad, but the health decay and the bonus damage are pretty big. And then my last few points went here to Fervor. Again, this is another one you can kind of play around a little bit with, but take what suits your playstyle. So to wrap up the 5 skills, you can see that of the 5 that I've listed, only 4 of them are in my bars, leaving the 5th one empty, or quote-unquote empty. The main reason I made a choice between zombies and wraiths instead of picking both is they both kind of fill the same role for me. While your warriors, your skeletons and your mages and your bone golems are out there attack killing stuff and holding threat, the zombies or wraiths, whichever you prefer, give you something to do that's more than just kind of walking around and waiting for shit to die. There's still going to be a fair bit of that because it is a minion playstyle. Ultimately, I did pick the zombies over the wraiths because they had a better mana cost, they do more damage the way that I built them, and that 16% execute on everything, I just cannot overstate how powerful just these 2 skill points are. So, what are you to do with your 5th skill? If you followed my leveling path, whatever you want. I personally, as you can see, went into Transplant for a quick kind of get out of the shit button, but you may or may not want that. You may want to keep both the Wraiths and the Zombies. You may want to pick up the Abomination. You may want to go into Bone Curse or Dreadshade or any number of other things, and those are all valid choices. Like I said, this is never going to be a strict and unyielding build guide. I intentionally set this up with a lot of flexibility to allow for differences in playstyle. But for now, let's move on to the passives tree. Alright, so to start off my journey as the Acolyte tree, I maxed out Blood Aura here to give my minions some early bonus damage. From here, I then maxed out Dark Rituals for more damage. Then I went back to grab 5 points in Bone Armor for some survivability. After that, I put a point in Stolen Vitality and Crimson Gluttony for a bit of health and regen. And then I unlocked the Necromancer Mastery somewhere around the 21-22 point range. Your mileage is probably going to vary a bit. And as soon as Necromancer was unlocked, I started putting points in it. In the Necromancer tree, I immediately picked up Risen Army for more minion damage, and then started on Cursed Blood for still more damage. And this also was a large part of why I focused on the physical and necrotic damage, because the Necromancer talent tree is just set up best for those types of damage. As soon as I was able to, I put 4 points here in Aegis Fall. This chance to shred armor, and I immediately put 4 points in it. This 100% chance to shred armor on hit. If you watch some of my combat, and I'll put more up later as well, you'll notice that some enemies who last more than a couple seconds can very quickly get up to 40 or 50 stacks of shred armor, which adds up to a disgusting amount of bonus damage. Once I got those 4 points in Aegis Fall, I finished maxing out Cursed Blood, and then picked up a few points in Elixir of Hunger to fill out more points and to give myself more health. Once I was able to, I immediately picked up and maxed out Frantic Summons. And then once Moonlight Pyre opened up, I started putting points in this and River of Bones. Personal preference on which one you went first. I think I started with River of Bones and then did Moonlight Pyre later, but again, your mileage may vary. Put points into Heresy and Rite of Undeath as you need them, and don't forget to take the Disciples of Necromancy for the extra Skeletal Mage. Now, let's move on to gearing. As I mentioned early on, this build doesn't require any specific sets or uniques to get going. You can completely run this build based on the strength of your passives, your skill points, and whatever random gear you find along the way. You generally want to be looking for gear with minion damage and minion health. Increased necrotic minion damage is going to be powerful on some spots, but just flat minion damage and minion health is also going to be good. It really is just that simple. Once you start getting into your early monoliths, start looking for gear that has some resistances and personal health as well. You want to make sure you live long enough to see everything else melt in front of you. 100% of your damage comes from your minions, so any secondary stats that add damage to yourself are going to be kind of wasted. But especially early on, you're going to come across it, so do what you can to improve the gear you have and look for better replacements as you go along. For the idols, I found a lot of them that had minion critical strike chance, and then minion necrotic damage and minion physical damage, and then the idols are also a good place to add in some extra resistance as well. So from here, you can kind of take this build and go where you want with it. Add whatever passives you think will fit your build best, whether you need damage or more survivability. It's all there in the talent tree. I'm not planning on taking this guide and going into the top level dungeons and 500 corruption monoliths. That's not to say that this build isn't capable of those things, but this is not what this guide was centered around. As I said at the beginning, I wanted to take a build that you can take from the very, very beginning, which this starts at level 2. Take something from the very beginning and take you through the game into those monoliths and into low corruption monoliths. And if you want to take it farther, then you can do that. Or if you want to adjust your gear and move a different direction into a more meta build, you can do that as well. But I hope you've enjoyed my build guide. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and let me know. Thanks for watching.